Captain Jake Morrison stared at the holographic display floating above the bridge of the USS Frontier. The three-dimensional star map showed thousands of bright points of light scattered across the galaxy. Each point represented a star system, a possible home to alien worlds and civilizations. But something was wrong with the map, something that made Jake's stomach twist with unease. "Katie, run the scan again," Jake said to his navigation officer. Lieutenant Katie Burns sat at her station, her fingers dancing across the control panel. She had been working on the stellar cartography for 3 hours now, and the results were always the same. "Same reading, Captain," Katie replied, her voice tight with frustration. "The alien database shows a complete dead zone around Earth. No stars, no planets, no cosmic dust, nothing at all." Jake walked closer to the display. The dead zone was perfectly round, like someone had taken a giant sphere and erased everything inside it. The sphere was roughly 50 light-years across, with Earth sitting right in the center. According to the alien maps, that entire region of space was empty, completely empty. "That's impossible," said Dr. Peter Grant, the ship's xenobiologist. He stood up from his workstation and joined Jake at the display. "We know there are hundreds of star systems in that region. We've been to most of them. Hell, we have colonies on dozens of worlds in there." Jake nodded. The human star chart showed a rich populated region of space. Earth, Mars, the Alpha Centauri. Colonies, the mining stations around Volf 359, the research outpost near Barnard's star. All of it was there on human maps. All of it was missing from alien maps. "Maybe it's a translation error," suggested Katie. "Their computer systems might not be compatible with ours." "No," said Peter, shaking his head. "I've checked the raw data. The alien navigation systems are actually more advanced than ours. They can map star systems from thousands of light-years away. But when they look at our region of space, they see absolutely nothing." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. He had been a starship captain for 15 years, and he had never encountered anything like this. The USS Frontier was on a routine exploration mission, mapping new trade routes between human space and the Kalari Trade Union. The Kalari were a peaceful species, known for their accurate star charts and reliable navigation data. If their maps showed nothing where Earth should be, there had to be a reason. "Sir," said Communications Officer Steve Parker from his station, "I'm getting reports from other human ships. They're finding the same thing. Every alien species we've made contact with has the same gap in their star charts." Jake turned to look at Steve. "Every species?" "Yes, sir. The Kalari, the Vrex Confederation, the Altari Republic, even the Zephyrian merchants. All of them have the same empty space where our territory should be." Dr. Peter Grant pulled up another display, this one showing the history of human first contact with alien civilizations. "Captain, I've been reviewing our first contact protocols. Something doesn't add up." Jake raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "Think about it," Peter said. "Humanity has been broadcasting radio signals into space for over 200 years. We've been flying around in faster-than-light ships for the past 50 years. We've established colonies on hundreds of worlds. But the first alien contact only happened 5 years ago. So if we're visible to them, why didn't they find us sooner? With all the radio signals, the ship traffic, the colony construction, we should have been discovered decades ago. But according to alien records, our region of space has always been empty." Katie looked up from her station. "Are you saying they can't see us?" "I'm saying maybe they couldn't see us until recently," Peter replied. "Something changed 5 years ago. Something that made us visible to the rest of the galaxy." Jake thought about this. 5 years ago was when humanity had first developed quantum communication technology. It was also when they had started using advanced scanning techniques to map distant star systems. Could there be a connection? "Commander Ward to the bridge," Jake said, activating the ship's internal communication system. Commander Lisa Ward was his second in command, and one of the smartest officers he had ever served with. Lisa arrived on the bridge within minutes. She was a tall woman with short brown hair and sharp green eyes. She took one look at the displays and immediately understood the problem. "How long have you been working on this?" she asked. 3 hours, Jake replied. "The alien star charts show a perfect sphere of empty space around Earth, but we know that space isn't empty." Lisa studied the holographic display. She walked around it, examining it from different angles. "This isn't random," she said finally. "Look at the shape. It's too perfect to be natural." Jake looked at the sphere again. Lisa was right. The boundary was perfectly smooth, like it had been drawn with a compass. Natural phenomena didn't create such perfect geometric shapes. "What are you thinking?" Jake asked. "I'm thinking this might not be a mapping error," Lisa said. "What if something is actively hiding us from the rest of the galaxy?" The bridge fell silent. The crew exchanged worried glances. The idea that something was hiding humanity from alien civilizations was both terrifying and fascinating. That's impossible," Katie said. "How could anyone hide entire star systems?" "I don't know," Lisa replied. "But I think we need to find out." "Captain, I recommend we take the ship to the edge of human space. If there's some kind of barrier or boundary, we need to investigate it." Jake looked at his crew. They were all staring at him, waiting for his decision. The USS Frontier was an exploration vessel designed to investigate the unknown. This was certainly unknown. "Set course for the edge of human space," Jake ordered. "Best speed." As the ship turned toward the boundary of the mysterious dead zone, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to discover something that would change everything humanity thought they knew about their place in the galaxy. The USS Frontier had been traveling for 3 days toward the edge of human space when the first strange things began to happen. Captain Jake Morrison was reviewing reports in his ready room when the ship's lights flickered. It was just for a moment, but it made him look up from his datapad. "Bridge to Captain Morrison," came Katie's voice over the communication system. She sounded worried. "What's the problem, Lieutenant?" Jake asked as he walked onto the bridge. "Our sensors are acting up, sir," Katie replied. She was frowning at her displays. "Long-range scanners are showing conflicting readings. One moment they show normal space ahead of us, the next moment they show nothing at all." Jake moved to her station and looked at the screens. The sensor data kept changing every few seconds. First it would show stars and cosmic dust, then it would show empty black space, then back to stars again. "When did this start?" Jake asked. "About an hour ago," Katie said. "It's getting worse as we get closer to the boundary." Chief Engineer Tony Rodriguez's voice came over the communication system. "Captain, we're having problems in engineering. The quantum drive is running fine, but our navigation computers can't seem to figure out where we are." Jake felt that familiar chill again. "I'm on my way." The engineering section was filled with the usual hum of machinery, but Tony looked frustrated as he worked at his control panel. He was a short man with graying hair and 20 years of experience keeping starships running. "Show me what you're seeing," Jake said. Tony pulled up a navigation display. "Look at this, Captain. According to our computers, we're in 3 different places at the same time. Our primary navigation system says we're here," he pointed to a spot on the star chart. "Our backup system says we're here," he pointed to another spot. "And our quantum positioning system says we're nowhere at all." Jake studied the display. The 3 positions were miles apart, which should have been impossible. Starship navigation systems were accurate to within a few meters. "There's something else," Tony continued. "Our quantum communicators are picking up echoes." "Echoes?" "Messages that seem to be bouncing back to us. When we try to send a transmission to Earth, it comes back like it hit a wall and bounced off." Jake felt his stomach drop. "Show me." Tony activated the communication system and sent a simple test message toward Earth. Within seconds, the same message came back to them, but it was distorted and strange sounding. "It's like there's an invisible barrier out there," Tony said. "Something that reflects our signals back at us." Jake returned to the bridge to find more problems waiting for him. Security Chief Amy Peterson was standing near the main display, talking quietly with Commander Lisa Ward. "Captain," Amy said when she saw him, "we need to talk about the crew." "What about them?" They're having strange dreams, Amy replied. At least half the crew has reported the same thing. They dream about being watched by something they can't see. Jake raised an eyebrow. Watched by what? That's just it, Amy said. They can't see what's watching them. They just feel eyes on them like something is studying them. Lisa stepped forward. It's not just dreams, Captain. Crew members are reporting feeling observed when they look out at the stars. They say it feels like something is looking back at them. Jake looked around the bridge. His crew was working at their stations, but he could see the tension in their faces. Everyone seemed nervous, glancing at the view screen that showed the stars ahead. Sir, said Communications Officer Steve. Parker, I'm picking up a transmission from outside the boundary. Jake turned to him. What kind of transmission? It's from a Kalari merchant vessel. They're requesting permission to communicate. Jake felt a spark of hope. Put them on screen. The main view screen flickered and the image of a Kalari appeared. The alien looked like a tall, thin human with blue skin and large, dark eyes. It wore the typical robes of a Kalari trader. Greetings, human vessel, the Kalari said in accented English. I am Captain Zoll of the merchant ship Bright Wanderer. We see your ship clearly, but our sensors show you are alone in empty space. Jake stepped forward. What do you mean, alone in empty space? Behind your vessel, we see nothing, Captain Zoll replied. No stars, no planets, no cosmic matter. Only empty darkness stretching to infinity. Jake felt his heart racing. Captain Zoll, can you see us clearly? Yes, your ship is visible to us. But everything behind you is gone? It is as if you emerged from nothingness. Lisa moved beside Jake. Captain Zoll, we're going to move our ship. Please tell us what you see. Jake nodded to Katie, who slowly moved the USS Frontier to the left. On the view screen, Captain Zoll's eyes widened. Extraordinary, the Kalari said. As your ship moves, the empty space moves with it. It is as if you carry a bubble of nothingness around you. Jake felt like the floor was dropping out from under him. Captain Zoll, from our perspective, we can see hundreds of star systems behind us. Human colonies, mining stations, research outposts. Impossible, Captain Zoll replied. We see only void. Our long-range sensors detect no matter, no energy, no life in that region of space. Dr. Peter Grant had arrived on the bridge during the conversation. Captain Zoll, how long have your people known about this empty region? It has always been empty, the Kalari replied. Our star charts have shown void in that area for thousands of years. Nothing has ever existed there. After the communication ended, Jake gathered his senior staff in the conference room. The mood was grim as they discussed what they had learned. So we're invisible to them, Katie said. They can see our ship, but they can't see where we came. From not invisible, Lisa corrected. Hidden. Something is hiding our entire region of space from outside observation. Tony leaned forward. But how is that possible? You can't hide star systems. Apparently you can, Peter said. The question is, who's doing it and why? Jake looked around the table at his crew. They were all experienced officers, but this was beyond anything they had encountered before. We need to understand what we're dealing with, Jake said. I want every sensor we have focused on the boundary. If there's something out there hiding us, we need to find it. As the meeting broke up, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing at the edge of a secret that would change everything humanity thought they knew about their place in the universe. Dr. Helen Murphy had been working in the ship's science lab for 18 hours straight. The theoretical physicist was surrounded by displays showing mathematical equations and sensor readings. Her coffee had gone cold hours ago, but she didn't notice. She was too focused on solving the impossible puzzle. Captain Morrison to Dr. Murphy, came Jake's voice over the communication system. Yes, Captain? Helen replied, not looking up from her work. Report to the bridge. We need to hear your theory. Helen saved her work and made her way to the bridge. The senior staff was already gathered there, all looking tired and worried. Outside the view screen, the stars seemed different somehow. They flickered and shifted like they couldn't decide if they wanted to be there or not. What have you found, Doctor? Jake asked. Helen took a deep breath. I think I know what's happening to us, but you're not going to like it. She activated the main display and pulled up her research. Based on our sensor readings and the conversations with Captain Zoll, I believe we exist inside some kind of spatial anomaly. What kind of anomaly? Lisa asked. Think of it like a bubble, Helen explained. Our entire region of space is wrapped in something that makes it invisible to outside observers. From their perspective, we literally don't exist. Tony scratched his head. But that's impossible. You can't hide star systems. That's what I thought too, Helen said. But the evidence is clear. The boundary affects observation and detection, but not physical matter. Objects can pass through it, but they become invisible once they cross over. Katie looked confused. So we're trapped inside this bubble? Not trapped, Helen corrected. Hidden, and it works both ways. When we look out at alien space, we can see them clearly, but when they look at us, they see nothing. Jake felt pieces of the puzzle clicking together in his mind. That explains why first contact only happened 5 years ago. If we're invisible to them, how did they finally find us? That's the interesting part, Helen said. I think something changed, something that made us partially visible. Maybe our quantum communication technology or our new scanning methods created a crack in the barrier. Dr. Peter Grant leaned forward. Helen, this barrier, is it natural or artificial? Based on the perfect spherical shape and the selective nature of what it hides, I'd say it's definitely artificial. Someone or something created this to hide us. The bridge fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. The idea that humanity had been hidden by an unknown force was both terrifying and amazing. Sir, said Steve Parker from his communications station, I'm receiving a message from Captain Zoll. He wants to try a joint experiment. Put him on screen, Jake ordered. The Kalari captain appeared on the view screen. Captain Morrison, we have been thinking about your situation. We would like to test something with you. What kind of test? Jake asked. We will move our ship while you watch us. You will tell us what you see. Then you will move your ship while we watch you. This may help us understand the barrier between us, Jake nodded. Agreed. Lisa, take us to a safe distance. The USS Frontier moved back several thousand kilometers from the boundary. On the view screen, they could see the Kalari ship clearly. It was a sleek vessel with curved lines and glowing sections. We are moving now, Captain Zoll announced. The Kalari ship began to move in a slow circle. Jake and his crew watched it carefully. The alien vessel was visible the entire time, never flickering or disappearing. We can see you perfectly, Jake reported. No visual distortion at all. Excellent, Captain Zoll replied. Now you move your ship. We will watch and report what we see. Katie piloted the USS Frontier in the same circular pattern. Jake watched the alien captain's face on the screen. Captain Zoll's expression was one of amazement and confusion. Remarkable, the Kalari said. Your ship is visible to us, but as you move, the empty space behind you moves with you. It is as if you carry a sphere of nothingness wherever you go. Jake felt a chill. Captain Zoll, what happens if we move toward the boundary? We will watch and tell you. Katie slowly moved the USS Frontier closer to the invisible barrier. On the screen, Captain Zoll's eyes widened. Your ship is becoming fainter, he reported. The closer you get to the boundary, the less solid you appear. It is as if you are fading back into the void. Stop, Jake ordered. Katie brought the ship to a halt. Now you are solid again, Captain Zoll said. But Captain Morrison, we have noticed something else. When your ship moves close to the boundary, our sensors detect brief flashes of energy. Very advanced energy signatures. Helen looked up from her readings. Captain, I'm detecting the same thing. There are artificial structures out there, old ones, really old. Jake felt his heart racing. What kind of structures? I can't tell from here, Helen replied. But they're definitely not natural, and they're not human. Lisa stepped forward. Captain, we need to investigate those structures. They might be the key to understanding what's hiding us. Jake looked at his crew. They were all staring at him, waiting for his decision. The USS Frontier was equipped for exploration, but this was beyond anything they had expected to find. "Captain Zoll," Jake said to the alien on the screen, "we're going to investigate some structures near the boundary. Will you stay in the area?" "Of course, Captain Morrison." "We are very curious about this mystery as well." After ending the communication, Jake turned to his crew. "Dr. Murphy, I want you to prepare sensor probes. We're going to map those structures before we get too close." "Yes, sir," Helen replied. "Tony, make sure all systems are running at peak efficiency. If we're dealing with unknown technology, we need to be ready for anything." "Understood, Captain." Jake looked out at the stars through the view screen. Somewhere out there, hidden in the darkness, were ancient structures that had been hiding humanity from the galaxy. The question was why. "Amy," he said to his security chief, "double the watch rotation. If we're about to encounter alien technology, we need to be prepared for anything." As the USS Frontier moved closer to the boundary, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to discover something that would change humanity's understanding of their place in the universe. The structures were old, Helen had said, really old. That meant whoever built them had been hiding humanity for a very long time. But why would an ancient civilization want to hide Earth and its colonies? And what would happen when humanity finally learned the truth about their hidden existence? The answers waited somewhere in the darkness ahead, guarded by technology beyond human understanding. Jake just hoped his crew was ready for whatever they were about to find. The shuttle bay of the USS Frontier was buzzing with activity as the crew prepared for the most important mission of their lives. Captain Jake Morrison watched as his team checked their equipment one final time. They were about to land on one of the dead worlds near the boundary, where Dr. Helen Murphy had detected the ancient structures. "Are you sure about this, Captain?" asked Security Chief Amy Peterson as she adjusted her weapon. "We don't know what we're going to find down there." "That's exactly why we need to go," Jake replied. "These structures might be the key to understanding who's been hiding us and why." Dr. Peter Grant was loading scientific equipment into the shuttle. His hands were shaking slightly with excitement. "The energy readings from those structures are unlike anything we've ever seen. This could be the archaeological discovery of the century." Jake nodded and turned to address the entire landing team. "Listen up, everyone. We're going into the unknown down there. Stay alert, stay together, and follow all safety protocols. Dr. Sarah Campbell will lead the archaeological team. Amy will handle security. I want everyone back on this shuttle safely." Dr. Sarah Campbell was the ship's archaeologist, a quiet woman with sharp eyes and steady hands. She had studied alien ruins on a dozen worlds, but nothing had prepared her for what they might find today. "Captain," she said, "the structures are massive. From orbit, they look like they could be kilometers long. Whatever built them had technology far beyond anything we know." The shuttle launched from the USS Frontier and headed toward the dead world below. As they descended through the thin atmosphere, Jake could see the structures with his own eyes. They were enormous, stretching across the planet's surface like metal rivers. The material was dark and smooth, reflecting no light. "My God," whispered Tony Rodriguez, who had joined the landing team as their technical expert. "Those things are huge. They must be millions of years old." The shuttle landed near the largest structure. As the team stepped out onto the planet's surface, Jake felt a strange sensation. The air was breathable, but it felt thick and heavy. The gravity was lighter than Earth's, making each step feel like floating. "Readings are off the charts," Sarah said, checking her instruments. "The structures are definitely artificial, but the materials are unknown. It's like they're made of something that doesn't exist in our periodic table." Amy took point as they approached the nearest structure. It rose from the ground like a smooth black wall, easily 30 meters high. There were no visible doors or windows, just a perfect surface that seemed to absorb light. "How do we get inside?" Tony asked Dot as if answering his question. A section of the wall suddenly became transparent. Beyond it, they could see a corridor lit by soft blue light. "Well, that's convenient," Amy muttered, raising her weapon. "Or terrifying," Jake replied. Whatever's in there knows we're here. They entered the structure cautiously. The corridor was wide enough for 10 people to walk side by side, and the walls were covered with symbols that seemed to shift and change as they watched. Are you getting this? Jake asked Sarah. Sarah was recording everything with her equipment. The symbols are active. They're not just carved into the walls, they're part of the structure itself. It's like the entire building is alive. They walked deeper into the structure, following the corridor as it curved gently to the left. The blue light seemed to come from the walls themselves, casting no shadows. After several minutes, they reached a large chamber. The chamber was enormous, with a ceiling that disappeared into darkness above them. The walls were covered with more shifting symbols, and in the center of the room stood a massive device that hummed with energy. "This is it," Peter said, his voice filled with awe. "This is what's been hiding us." The device was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. It was roughly spherical, about 10 meters across, and it floated a meter above the floor. Energy patterns flowed across its surface like liquid light. "Sarah, can you read any of these symbols?" Jake asked. Sarah was studying the walls with her instruments. "Some of them are starting to make sense. It's like the structure is teaching me the language. Captain, I think this place wants us to understand." As she spoke, the symbols on the walls began to glow brighter. Suddenly, images appeared in the air above the central device. The images showed the galaxy as it was millions of years ago. "It's a historical record," Sarah said excitedly. "The builders left us their story." The images showed a race of tall, graceful beings with 4 arms and large, intelligent eyes. They had built a vast civilization that spanned thousands of worlds. But they were not alone in the galaxy. "Look at that," Tony pointed to one of the images. It showed massive ships attacking the builders' worlds. The attackers were different from the builders, with dark, angular ships that destroyed everything in their path. "They're showing us a war," Jake realized. The builders were fighting someone. The images continued, showing the builders' civilization falling to the attackers. World after world was destroyed until only a few builders remained. "But they had one last plan. Earth," Sarah whispered. "They're showing us Earth." The images showed the builders arriving at Earth millions of years ago, when humans were still primitive. The builders studied the early humans, watching them develop and grow. They saw something in humanity that impressed them. They liked what they saw, Peter said. They thought humans had potential. The images showed the builders making their final decision. They would use their last technology to hide Earth and its surrounding space from the rest of the galaxy. They would protect humanity until it was strong enough to defend itself. "The barrier," Helen said over the communication system from the ship. "They built the barrier to hide us from the same species that destroyed them." The images showed the builders constructing the massive network of devices that would create the barrier. They worked for years, using up their remaining resources to build the ultimate hiding place. "They sacrificed everything to protect us," Sarah said softly. "Species we had never met who gave up their lives to save ours." The final images showed the builders activating the barrier and then disappearing. They had used all their energy to create the hiding place, leaving nothing for themselves. "They called themselves the Watchers," Sarah said, reading the symbols on the walls. "They watched over dozens of species, but they saw something special in humanity. They believed we could become something great." Jake felt a weight settle on his shoulders. Humanity had been protected by an ancient race that had died to save them. The builders had given up everything, trusting that humans would someday be worthy of their sacrifice. "Captain," Amy said, "we need to see the other structures. If the Watchers built a network of these devices, we need to understand how they work." Jake nodded. "Sarah, can you communicate with the structure? Can you ask it questions?" Sarah placed her hand on one of the walls. The symbols began to glow, and new images appeared. The structure was showing them the entire network of devices spread across dozens of dead worlds around the boundary. "It's incredible," Sarah breathed. "The whole system is still active, still protecting us after millions." of years. But Captain, there's something else. The power source is failing. Jake felt his heart sink. What do you mean? The Watchers built this system to last, but not forever. The energy that powers the barrier is running out. According to this, we have maybe 100 years before the barrier collapses completely. The weight on Jake's shoulders grew heavier. Humanity was going to be exposed to the galaxy whether they wanted it or not. The only question was whether they would be ready when that time came. We need to learn everything we can, Jake said. If the barrier is going to fail, we need to understand what we're up against. As they prepared to explore more of the structure, Jake couldn't help but think about the builders' sacrifice. They had given up everything to protect a species they barely knew. Now, it was up to humanity to prove they had been worthy of that sacrifice. Captain Jake Morrison stood in the central chamber of the Watcher facility, staring at the control panel that could change the fate of humanity. The ancient device hummed with power, its surface covered with glowing symbols that Dr. Sarah Campbell had finally learned to read. Are you absolutely certain about this? Jake asked Sarah for the third time. Yes, Captain, Sarah replied, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what they were discussing. This panel can deactivate the barrier immediately, but once it's turned off, it can never be turned back on. The Watchers designed it that way. Jake looked around at his landing team. They had been exploring the facility for 6 hours, learning everything they could about the barrier system. The knowledge was both amazing and terrifying. Captain, said Tony Rodriguez, who was studying the power readings, the barrier isn't just hiding us. It's been protecting us from something specific. The Watchers' records show that the species that destroyed them is still out there. Dr. Peter Grant was examining historical records on another display. The destroyers call themselves the Dominion. They've been conquering the galaxy for millions of years. Any species that shows potential for advanced technology gets destroyed before they can become a threat. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. And they would see us as a threat? Definitely, Peter replied. According to these records, humanity has developed faster than any species the Watchers ever observed. We went from primitive tools to spaceflight in just a few thousand years. The Dominion would see that as dangerous. Amy Peterson was studying tactical information on her scanner. Captain, the Watchers left detailed files about the Dominion's military capabilities. Their technology is thousands of years ahead of ours. If they find us now, we wouldn't stand a chance. Jake walked to the main display, where images of the galaxy showed the current situation. The Dominion controlled most of the galaxy, with their dark ships patrolling trade routes and monitoring developing civilizations. But we can't hide forever, Jake said. The barrier is failing. We have maybe 100 years before it collapses on its own. That's the key point, Sarah said. The Watchers knew this day would come. They left us a choice, but they also left us tools. She activated another section of the display. New images appeared, showing hidden facilities throughout human space. The Watchers had built more than just the barrier. They had prepared humanity for the day when they would have to face the galaxy. There are weapons, Sarah explained. Technologies that the Watchers developed during their war with the Dominion. They're hidden on dozens of worlds in human space, waiting for us to find them, Tony whistled softly. They've been preparing us for this fight for millions of years. Jake's communication device crackled to life. Captain Morrison, this is Commander Ward. We're receiving multiple transmissions from Earth Command. They want to know what we've found. Jake activated his communicator. Patch me through to Earth Command. Lisa. Within minutes, Jake was speaking directly with Admiral Robert Kane, the head of Earth's Space Command. The Admiral's face appeared on the facility's display screen, his expression serious. Captain Morrison, your preliminary reports are causing quite a stir here on Earth. Is it true that we've been hidden from the galaxy by an ancient alien race? Yes, Admiral, Jake replied. The Watchers have been protecting us for millions of years, but their barrier system is failing. We have about a century before we're exposed to the galaxy whether we want to be or not. Admiral Kane was quiet for A long moment. And this Dominion you mentioned? They're still out there, Admiral. They've been conquering species for millions of years. The Watchers died fighting them, but they hid us so we could develop in safety. What are your recommendations, Captain? Jake looked around at his team. They had discussed this question for hours, weighing the options. Admiral, we have two choices. We can try to extend the barrier's life and buy ourselves more time. Or we can prepare for the inevitable and start getting ready to defend ourselves. What do you think we should do? Sir, I think we should prepare for war. The Watchers believed in us enough to sacrifice their entire civilization to protect us. We owe it to them to be ready when the time comes. Admiral Kane nodded slowly. I'll need to discuss this with the Council. But Captain, I want you to continue exploring those Watcher facilities. If they left us weapons, we need to find them. After the communication ended, Jake turned to his team. You heard the Admiral? We have work to do? Over the next several hours, they explored more of the facility. The Watchers had left behind incredible technology. Energy weapons that could destroy entire fleets. Defensive systems that could protect planets. Ships that could travel faster than anything humanity had ever built. It's like they've been preparing us for this moment, Sarah said as they examined blueprints for advanced starships. Every piece of technology they left behind is designed to help us fight the Dominion. But why us? Tony asked. Why did they choose to protect humanity? Sarah pulled up the final records left by the Watchers. The images showed the last surviving members of their species, working desperately to complete the barrier system before the Dominion found them. They studied hundreds of species, Sarah explained. Most of them were peaceful, content to live simple lives. Others were aggressive but predictable. But humans were different. The record showed early humans facing impossible odds and finding ways to survive. They showed human creativity, adaptability, and refusal to give up even when everything seemed hopeless. They saw something in us that reminded them of themselves, Sarah continued. The ability to grow, to change, to become more than we were. They believed that if any species could stand up to the Dominion, it would be us. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. An entire civilization had died to give humanity this chance. The least they could do was make sure that sacrifice wasn't wasted. Captain, Amy said, I'm detecting movement outside. Something's coming? They rushed to the facility's observation deck. Through the transparent walls they could see the USS Frontier landing nearby, but there was something else. Another ship, sleek and unfamiliar, was approaching from the other direction. It's a Kalari vessel, Tony said, checking his scanner. Captain Zoll kept his word. He's been waiting for us. As they watched, Captain Zoll's ship landed near the human shuttle. The Kalari captain himself emerged, along with several members of his crew. They were carrying recording equipment and looked excited. Captain Morrison, came Captain Zoll's voice over the communication system. We have been monitoring your exploration. Our sensors detected incredible energy signatures from the facility. What have you discovered? Jake made a decision that would change everything. Captain Zoll, we need to talk. What I'm about to tell you will change how your people see the galaxy. An hour later, Jake stood in the facility's main chamber with both his crew and the Kalari delegation. He had told them everything. About the Watchers, about the Dominion, about humanity's hidden history. Captain Zoll's large eyes were wide with amazement. You mean to tell me that your entire species has been hidden from us for millions of years? That's right, Jake replied. And now we have to decide what to do about it. The Kalari Trade Union has had peaceful contact with the Dominion for centuries, Captain Zoll said. They demand tribute from all species, but they allow us to exist as long as we don't threaten them. But they would see humanity as a threat, Jake said. We've advanced too quickly. They would want to destroy us before we become strong enough to resist them. Captain Zoll was quiet for a long moment. Captain Morrison, if what you say is true, then the Dominion has been lying to us for centuries. They told us they were protecting the galaxy from dangerous species. But they were actually preventing anyone from becoming strong enough to challenge them, Jake nodded. The Watchers left us weapons, Captain Zoll. Technology that could free the entire galaxy from the Dominion's control, but we can't do it alone. Captain. Zoll looked at his crew, then back at Jake. What are you proposing? An alliance? Jake said. Humanity will share the Watchers' technology with any species willing to stand up to the Dominion. Together we can build a galaxy where every species is free to develop and grow. Captain Zoll smiled, the first time Jake had seen a Kaleri show such emotion. Captain Morrison, I think the Watchers chose well when they decided to protect your species. The Kaleri Trade Union would be honored to stand with humanity. As Jake looked around the ancient facility, he realized that the Watchers' plan was finally coming to fruition. They had hidden humanity not just to protect them, but to prepare them for this moment. The moment when they would have to choose between hiding in safety or standing up for freedom. The choice was clear. Humanity would not hide any longer. They would take their place in the galaxy, not as conquerors like the Dominion, but as protectors of the freedom that the Watchers had died to preserve. The barrier would stay active for now, but not to hide humanity. It would be used to protect the growing alliance of free species that would soon challenge the Dominion's control of the galaxy. The Watchers had been right about humanity. When faced with an impossible choice, humans had chosen to fight for what was right. And they would not fight alone.